You know, I really don't understand Trump supporters and the clutching of the pearls over name calling. I really don't get it. This is the same man, okay, that stiffed every one of his contractors when he was building all of his buildings, you know. Okay. This is the same man that called for 5 young teenage black boys, called for their unaliving, their public hanging in the New York Times. Took out a full page ad over something that they didn't do. The man that sat in front of Congress when he was subpoenaed to answer for why he thought he deserved tax breaks for casinos that he continued to bankrupt after bankruptcy. And he was mad that he couldn't get a tax deduction because at the time they were giving out tax deductions to Native Americans. And he sat there and looked at them and said, "Well, they don't look like Indians to me, sir." You clutch your pearls over name calling when Tangerine Palpatine stood up there and mocked a disabled man on live TV. Said that he could stand in the middle of 5th Avenue and shoot someone and he would not lose any supporters. Who has nicknames for everyone. Nasty Pelosi. Shifty Shift. Sleepy Joe Biden. Pocahontas Harris. He told black members of Congress to go back to where they come from. They're American citizens, every single one of them. A man who has 5 kids from 3 different women, and he cheated on every single one of them. A man who stood on the ellipse outside of the White House and told his mob that if they didn't fight like hell, they would lose their country and lose their freedom, and to stop the steal, all because he lost. He lost in 2020. And he still won't let it go. You called me childish for calling him Tangerine Palpatine, which is what he will be known as for as long as he draws breath, as Tangerine Palpatine. As a Gen Xer, you should know this history. You should know the history. You should know the history of Donald Trump. You should know the history of every other dictator, because he is doing exactly like every other dictator before him. And then to top it off, he is an adjudicated rapist and a 34-time felon of business fraud, of tax evasions. And he's also guilty of inciting an insurrection using his own supporters to go and overthrow the duly elected process of certifying the electoral votes. And sent his mob down there to hang the line of secession. They put gallows up. They put gallows up. And for what? Because he hates the same people you hate? Because he's going to deport all the brown and black immigrants that you think are coming over here and taking your jobs? You say you watch Star Wars, that you loved it so much and watched it in the actual drive-in movie when it first came out. There was no drive-in movies around the small little town that I was living in when it first came out, but I sat beside my father and watched it and fell in love. I've seen every movie up until now. And the Emperor Palpatine is very, very much like Trump. Full of hatred, full of evil, and blaming everybody else for his problems except for himself, who wants to be loved and adored by everyone. Wants the world to end and democracy to end with thunderous applause for him. If name-calling is childish, then Tangerine Palpatine is probably the biggest toddler I've ever met in my life. Maybe rewatch the series again. Maybe rewatch the series again with the understanding of who Palpatine was. How he became the Emperor. How he turned Anakin. And how easy it was to do by playing on emotions. Much like the Tangerine Palpatine is doing today. With everything you've seen in all of your, I don't know how many years, but with everything you have seen, especially surrounding Trump, how can you still support him? How can you still respect someone who has never given an ounce of respect to anybody in his life? I don't even think he respected his parents, to be honest with you. He respected the money that his daddy used to bail him out with every time he bankrupted another business. Y'all said you loved him because he was a businessman and y'all thought that the government needed to be run like a business. You do understand that he has bankrupted every single business he's ever started. And now his daddy ain't around to bail him out. He's dead. Tangerine Palpatine is broke, desperately trying to hold on to the little bit of power that he got and the accolations that come from that, and acting like a perpetual toddler. And you and others in the MAGA party seem to be perfectly okay with hating immigrants unless they are white. Because y'all don't seem to have problem one with a South African immigrant who is here because he lied on a visa, saying he was coming over here to be a student when he never went to school. So technically he would be an illegal immigrant, rifling through your taxpayers' dollars and putting it all in his pocket. He doesn't give a flying shit about fraud, darling. He wants our money. And just like George Carlin says, they're coming after our Social Security, and they'll get that too. Because like Lyndon B. Johnson stated all those years ago, before he signed the Civil Rights Act, convinced a white man that he is better, the lowest white man, that he is better than even the best black man. And he won't notice that you're picking his pockets. Hell, give a white man somebody to look down upon and he will empty his pockets for you. Maybe it's time for you to rethink some things. Rethink who you support and what you support. For me, my morals are not for sale. Human rights are non-negotiable. They have no price. And they shouldn't be taken away simply because someone doesn't like the color of your skin or where you happen to have been when your mother shot you out of her uterus and what flag was flying outside of the hospital. We all live on this big ball together. We all need to work together. That's how we get true freedom and liberty. Anyway, just something to think about.